question, just hit me up on the chat or use the raise hand function and we'll get to you. We'll start with Ahmed.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you.
Ahmed.
Obviously, first scrimmage in the books. Anything kind of stick out or anything that, maybe you liked?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is very atypical of scrimmage number one. Got to get some kinks worked out, the sideline organization, some substitutions issues, some of these young players understanding that at this level, you've got to stay into the game. And, when a guy goes down, you've got to know it before your coach even grabs you to talk to you about it. So I like the effort that we saw. I thought there were some good things in all three phases, but I would say coming out of scrimmage one, defense a little further ahead than the offense in terms of just being able to get things executed, though I thought the offense and more of the controlled scrimmage situations, red area, 2 minute, also did some good things, but again, very typical of a scrimmage one where the effort was good, but the execution was a little off.
Varun.
Hey, Coach. How are you?
Varun, what's up, man? Congrats on your new gig.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You've talked a lot about with the two new offensive coordinators, even though the scheme stays the same, wanting to let them put their personality into it. Where do you see that show up? Is it in the plays they call? Is it in practice drills? Where do you kind of see that show up?
Yeah, and again, let's make sure. I want to make sure that everybody understands. We've got a coordinator and a co-coordinator. The coordinator is the one making the calls. Josh is the primary play caller. Obviously, Kevin's background as an OC and a head coach. A lot of the stuff he does as a co-coordinator happens during the week with game planning and those things. But Josh is the primary play caller, and it'll be that way this season. And if something changes, I'll let you guys know. But I think the big thing with both those guys is, we have a system that we've had some success with here over the years, and they both have done some things at other places they've been. And it's very typical, for us the things we have that they do as well, we keep in our terminology, our verbiage. But what they've both been able to add is their personalities. And, Josh is a bright, smart coach, and, he's not the young coach anymore, but a guy that has the game experience of calling it. And he's really kind of put his personality on it. And then with Kevin, I've seen the impact he's had with the young room of tight ends. You've got Corey Dyches, and then you've got 4 young players that haven't really played a lot of football for us. And I've seen his experience as a coach being able to maybe get these guys up to speed or help them grow a little quicker than normal, which I think is a byproduct of the experience he has as a coach.
Is there something, well, I guess, how do you balance wanting to keep things the same, but also letting these guys who, you talked about having the experience. Has there been something where they've been like, hey, why do you do this way? Should we be doing it this way? Whether it's a play call, whether it's a practice habit, a drill even, anything like that?
No, I mean, it's, again, confrontation is good and disagreements are good. Ultimately, we got to do what's best for the players and what they can get executed. As far as, how and why we do things, we as with anything in our system, it's up for debate from the standpoint of this is how we do it. But if there's a way to do it better, or if there's a way to do it more efficiently, we've got open ears. But I would also say that, we've done some things around here, and ultimately we've got to do what our players can get executed.
We'll go to Emmett.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Emmett.
With a lot of new faces on the offensive line, outside of the spring game, I would anticipate that these preseason scrimmages are some of the first live reps they have playing together. Outside of just like how they're performing in terms of, production on the field, what have you seen from them in terms of getting used to some of the procedural stuff that, sometimes there's some hiccups with when you have a lot of new guys playing together for the first time?
Yeah, we were really fortunate that even though we've got some young pieces or new pieces, not necessarily young, because, you've got 2 guys that are basically transfers that have earned degrees from other places, and Gotti and Corey Bullock. Well, and I would say luckily we've had those guys as well as Marcus Dumerville here for the spring. And a lot of the kinks and the things that sometimes don't get executed, we've kind of worked through with this group. So right now, and I think the biggest challenge we have is putting the best 5 on the field. And because of the versatility of these guys, you know, Gotti can play tackle, he can play guard, he can play either tackle. You know, guys like Emilio Moran has the ability to play guard and tackle. You know, DJ Glaze can play both left side and right side. And so what we're trying to do is figure out the best 5 to get on the field. And, you know, today was the really first live bullets that we got a chance to see with guys like Mike Purcell, who we brought in the summer, getting some valuable reps. And to me, that's what we've got to kind of figure out. We know we have enough talent there and the skill we're looking for, but now figuring out who the best 5 are that gives us the best chance to compete and win versus Towson.
Taylor?
Hey, Coach. You're
What's
going
up,
to
Taylor?
the question where you said, you're just trying to find the best 5. Where do you feel you guys are in that process in terms of finding the best 5? Is that something that kind of goes all the way right up to week 1, or just how far do you guys feel like you're along in finding that group?
Yeah, we're not close. Today really is the first opportunity to evaluate with the new pieces that got here. You know, from Colangio coming in and as well as Mike Purcell, who weren't here in the spring. This is really the first opportunity for us to see these guys, grade them based on how they perform under the lights per se in the shell. And so, you know, just walking off the field, I'm excited to get a chance to watch the tape and then we will start the process of figuring out who played well. We'll make the necessary adjustments going into week 3 of camp for us after Sunday being a recovery day. And we'll start adjusting the depth chart based on how some guys perform for us.
We'll go back to Varun.
You got to mute yourself.
Hey, Coach, wanted to ask with the cornerback alignment with Tarheeb, do you feel comfortable playing him inside and outside, or is there a place that you guys prefer him?
You know, he's played both here. He's played the slot corner position, the nickel spot for us over the last 3 years. He's played outside at the corner position. You know, in a perfect world, because he has been a guy that, you know, with the 3-corner rotation we've used, he's typically been in the slot. I think you'll see him outside a little more as we try to figure out the best slot corner for us, whether it's a nickel, a safety, or a corner. I still envision him taking some reps inside in the slot corner position, but you know, he's primarily, in an effort to develop some of these younger players, he's primarily played outside during camp, but it would take no effort whatsoever to get him back in the slot if we need him.
And then you talked about, I think it was in the spring when you talked about with Johnson and Akeem Basote wanting to see them step into bigger roles now that they're entering their junior years. What have you seen from them so far in camp, and what did you see from them today in the scrimmage?
Yeah, I think with Taze, obviously, you know, he's probably the more vocal of the guys. He's a guy that I think that has really embraced the leadership role that he's taken in terms of some of the things he's doing, not just on the field with guys, but in the locker room, and just, you know, really upholding the standard that we've set for how we want to do business. Tommy, still a work in progress. I've seen some maturity out of him. You know, he's played some meaningful snaps for us the last 2 years. But this year we need him to play with the great effort and the tenacity throughout the course of, you know, 60 plays. And, you know, I've seen him take some steps from a maturity standpoint. Now what we've got to do is get out of both those guys is the consistency of leadership from them.
Taylor?
Yeah, going back to the DBs, you know, you mentioned Tarheeb, but also Braid and Trader, kind of that returning trio that you have there. Just how big is it going to be for them to have, you know, a second year together in terms of chemistry and trust with each other? And, you know, how have you kind of seen that play out already through these first couple weeks of camp?
Yeah, you know, the back end being a strength for us with both Bo and Dante and their game experience over the last couple of years with Bo and then Dante a year ago. And then you throw in Heeb, who has been a starter for us from the time he stepped foot on campus. You know, I think having that type of continuity, the communication, which is really important from safety to corner, corner to safety, I think there's a huge trust factor. You know, there's a couple of things we look at as we start playing our guys, and we talk to them about, one, do they perform at a high level? And two, do we trust them? And I think with all three of those guys, all three of those guys are high performance, high trust guys that are the type of leaders you want on your defense and on your team.
Go back to Ahmed.
Hey, Coach. Good question. I don't know if you guys worked on it too much, but just I know you guys have a lot of returners and experiences in like the return game and special teams and whatnot. Any of the young guys that you feel like that kind of jumping out or kind of in the mix? You feel like?
Yeah, I mean, we've inherited some skilled players, guys like Tyrese Chambers, who's not young but new. I think he'll be able to aid us in the punt return game. You know, obviously back in the kicking game, guys like Octavian Smith and even Roman Hemby. You know, I think some of the young receivers, Ryan Manning and Kozlowski, all those guys have been able to start putting themselves in position. But we've got some veteran guys back there in Tarheeb as well as in Jay Sean that have shown the ability to return punts and kicks, and you know we'll continue to develop those other guys.
Back to Emmett.
When it comes to players like Talia, say that have multiple years of experience in your system, what exactly are you looking for them in a preseason scrimmage against their own players, knowing that you have such a developed body of work on what they can do against opponents?
I mean, the execution of our stuff. I mean, anytime we practice, we're looking for the ability to execute the things we call. And so with guys like Talia and some of the veteran players, the execution should be the efficiency of our execution should be at a really high rate. And so, we judge them not based on what they know, but how they get the things executed.
All right, we just have time for one or two more. We'll go back to Varun.
Hey, Coach, with the nickel spot, is Avante Williams a guy that you're potentially looking at to fill that role when you talk about the corner safety that could fill in the nickel role?
We're all those guys are up for grabs, but guys like Glenn Miller have played the position for us in games. He's one of those safeties that was a corner that transitioned. I see a guy like him playing a role in there. Gavin Gibson has played that nickel position for us a year ago. He's coming off of off-season surgery. So, we have a few bodies that have the ability to play in there, as well as some of these young corners. Perry Fisher, another young corner, has played a little bit inside. So we have enough body types. It's for us, from a personnel standpoint, it's a matter of developing a big nickel, which is where you put a safety in there for the run game, or if you just play regular nickel for the pass, where you put your best cover guy in there. So we're developing that position for both the safeties and corners.
Thank you.
All right, Coach. Thank you for the time. Appreciate you guys all coming.